Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and bacteria. Gen adults seem really like. Welcome back to another Team Fortress 2 video. And in this part, I kind of wanted to finish the conversation I had with myself in the last part, which was just me talking more. Okay, in the last part, I talked about movie trailers, and I talked about Men in Black, talked about Hellboy, not too well. Let me talk a little bit better about the next one, which is Spider-Man Far From Home. So, what about Spider-Man Far From Home? It's a movie. No, but seriously though, I will admit, Spider-Man: Homecoming was actually a pretty good movie. From when I did watch it, I'm thinking like, oh, that's a pretty good movie. That's pretty decent, and I don't have issues with it. It's just that, depending on who you ask, I think it's all right. Like, I think it's pretty good, and enough to where I think it's better than certain other Spider-Man movies I like. But I will admit, it's not. It's more like it's a different taste sort of thing. It's like if you had a choice between no, you've had a choice between like Pepsi or Coke. I like both brands, but it's like I choose one over the other just because, and I'm feeling something like that day. That's how I feel about Homecoming. Far From Home, however, I'm not sure how to feel because it looks pretty good and looks pretty decent. In fact, it's seemingly introducing a good amount of stuff here and there, and it's depending on who you ask. For example, there's a couple of plot points, elements, things like that that are throughout the entire trailer. It shows you, and certain villains being introduced, which it's like I'm not sure what they're going with here, but I think I've spoiled how exactly they're going to be handling it, which is the villains. And who are the villains in this one? I think it's the Amazing Absorbable Man or Sandman or some type of or Hydro Man, or maybe it's a group of them. All I do know is that there's this weird being who seems to be able to absorb elements, turn himself into rock, turn himself into water, stuff like that. And then there's Mysterio. Mysterio is like not a low tier villain of Spider-Man. It's just a villain that some people know of and can be the butt of a joke sometimes. But he's done a good amount of stuff and has actually been quite a threat in certain cases. Like his Spider-Man, what was it? Spider-Man Friend or Foe appearance where he was the main bad guy of that game. And he did a lot of stuff in that one, Jesus. It's amazing how far he went with that. It's like weird. But anyway, just check out the story for that game. You'll understand what I mean. So, Mysterio is in this game. Everyone knows he's a villain. So, it feels like if they're going for like a twist where it's like, oh, he's actually a good guy, he's helping, or he's trying to be a glory-seeking hog and trying to look like a good guy. I'm not sure. Like, maybe it's one or the other, but I feel as if he's going to be the main bad guy either way. Or maybe he might be a good guy and they are just tricking everyone. I don't know. Like, I kind of don't feel like that could be the case. Like, I don't know. Like, usually any villains that do show up in the comic book movies usually stay villains regardless, all that stuff. Certain complexities can be added to them, but overall they're, usually remain villains. Whew. What about other stuff, though? Like, what was it? The other movies. No, the other stuff to it. The acting in the trailer itself looks good. Certain little moments are pretty funny. Certain little things are a bit questionable, like, not design-wise, just stuff like, Peter Parker not sensing Nick Fury sooner, or why Spider-Sense didn't go off when Ned got shot in the neck with a dart. But other than that, it's fine. They do seem to be focusing on other stuff, like plot point elements, and either are sweeping certain things under the rug just to get under it, like the Aunt May thing. At the end of Spider-Man Homecoming, there was a bit of a thing that happened, and sorry if I'm spoiling this, but at the end of Homecoming, Aunt May figures out that Peter is Spider-Man because he puts on the suit with his door open. God dang it, Peter. And Aunt May sees, and he just, like, he might have explained it to her, and now he's able to be Spider-Man around her. So, there's that. There's also the it's apparently that, Happy, Tony Stark's loyal employee type person, seems to be hitting or might have a romantic interest relationship with what was it? With Aunt May, so there's that. That's kind of weird, but okay. Uh, so, there's those two things. So I'm guessing they're just going to sweep the whole fact that, Aunt May figured out that, or at least Aunt May saw that he was Peter was Spider-Man. So, we're just going to accept that and say that, oh, she knows from now on. And I'm not against that. It's just that, that seems like a quick sweep under the rug. You'd think there'd be more to it than that. But whatever. Okay, and then another one we have is besides the Happy and Aunt May thing, we have another relationship trying to bloom, and it's sort of being hinted at, which is MJ and Peter Parker. Okay, I've heard this weird discussional thing where some people theorize / say that this MJ in Spider-Man: Homecoming isn't actually MJ, isn't Mary Jane Watson, right? Mary Jane Watson, yeah. Some people say maybe her name's actually Michelle something, and she's not actually Mary Jane Watson. Like, I haven't heard anything that dispels this, and I'm pretty sure it is true that she is, actually supposed to be Mary Jane Watson, and I'm not against that. I'm always a sucker for the whole Peter Mary Jane Watson relationship sort of thing. I'm like, that's my favorite hero couple ever. No, well, not hero couple, just comic book / character couples ever. So having her be in an actual relationship with Peter Parker, being in this movie seems kind of cool. So I'm always for that, at least. So I don't know. I don't get why people think that. Why they think oh, this character in a Spider-Man movie that's named MJ is not going to be Mary Jane Watson. Just because she's a different race doesn't really mean she's not the same character. I don't get why they changed race. I really don't get it either. It seems kind of insignificant, and that's kind of my stance overall. I think it's insignificant regardless. I will say, the character itself, the actual character of, MJ played by whoever this was, it doesn't seem like the same MJ to me. I mean, I'm guessing this is just teenage angst to a degree, and maybe later on, when she grows older, she might become more like the actual Mary Jane Watson some people know of. I don't know, that's just a theory of mine. It's I think that maybe with Mary Jane Watson, she might be more, energetic, more, more... it's kind of hard to describe Mary Jane without having it sound like a SJW sort of thing. She's a strong, independent woman who has a bit of a side to her, actual or something to her that's interesting. All that type of stuff. Again, I've known the character for so long, it's hard for me to actually talk about her as confidently as I could for other characters. It's I can describe Peter Parker pretty well. He's a nerd. Okay, he's a good-hearted nerd who tries his best to be a good person. And the real thing about him is that sometimes he can be either lazy or sometimes he can be very hard to, what do you call it? Not work with, just try to work out his problems. He's always a good person, but the issue with him is that sometimes his worst enemy ever isn't any supervillain, it's himself. And if there's another type of flaw that, Peter Parker has, it's kind of simple. He's good enough of a person that if he's not a better person, that type of guilt will always haunt him forever. And that's kind of the story of, Spider-Man to a degree. It's oh, he has superpowers, and they should help him in his everyday life, but no, everything sort of gets worse, / it doesn't help at all, and you really are responsible for your actions and stuff like that. Basically all that stuff. So, there's my standpoints on Peter. It's always easy to do him. It's kind of hard to do Mary Jane without it sounding weird or, completely, off the cuff / not good enough. But whatever the case is, Peter Parker, Tom Holland as Peter Parker does a good enough job, at least at the young age. Maybe he'll get more confident or show that he's more confident, so that's fine. And Mary Jane in this movie, especially in the last movie, didn't really feel like Mary Jane Watson. but maybe she might become more like Mary Jane Watson in the future. I don't know. Like, I'm not against it overall. I just think, like, maybe that could be something that could happen. Yeah, and yeah, that's kind of the. By the way, this is like one of the bigger reasons why I decided not to talk about Spider-Man: Homecoming, because I had more to say about that than the other two movies. It's not that the other two movies aren't good or I don't have a connection to them. Again, I liked Hellboy the movie, and I did like the Men in Black series. But I will admit, I did have more to talk about this movie because there were some other topics I could talk about off the top of my head, at least, for these particular issues and situations. Maybe there's less, maybe there's more, maybe I could have talked about some other stuff, I don't know. But, you know, it's all dependent on who you ask. Overall, though, I think with Spider-Man Homecoming, it looks good. It looks pretty decent. And with everything else coming out for it, you know, some other movies coming out, how else will this series, or, you know, like, how else will this go for them? Like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm not sure. I haven't heard that much going on, but this movie, Far From Home, should happen in between, like the Civil War thing and, or the last Avengers movie. Well, not the last one. The, what do you call it? Civil War. And, you know, the last time, Spider-Man Homecoming happened, then this happens in between that and Infinity War, so this is before the whole thing happened with Thanos. If you don't know what happened, then, oh boy, you really, then, I'm not going to spoil that. You should definitely check out the movie. So, you know, this is going to be a bit weird to look at it, like, oh, right, the character, this is what happened to the character. I'm like, huh. I'm wondering how that works, like, this whole thing works. It feels weird, but it's not bad that they did this. I don't know. Whew. Like, I'm having trouble, like, trying to think of, like, how to describe it without talking about it, but I'm just gonna end it there. So, anything else I want to talk about? Well, there's some other game stuff, later news that I could talk about, but I'll save that for later. As of right now, the other movies that I don't really know about, or at least haven't really seen yet, are certain other smaller, like, individual movie things. Like, oh yeah, the Broly movie. That's another thing I could discuss real quick. I might do a review on that, actually, or just a discussion on that fully, but yeah, the Broly movie. I actually did see it, and I actually kind of like it. It's not the best thing I've ever seen. It has some issues, but it doesn't look bad. So, for those of you curious, Dragon Ball Super's continuity gets even more weird when they have another movie coming out where it has a character that just, for some reason, no one's ever found until now, who's able to match Super Saiyan gods, or at least Super Saiyan gods of both Vegeta and Goku separately, and even Golden Frieza. It's like, wow, this character existed and you're just putting him in now. And it's Broly of all people. I will say, the character itself in the movie is, you know, Broly himself. I don't have an issue with, actually. For once, I'm not actually disliking of this character of Broly, because his story at least makes a little bit more sense than it did in his original movie, which is more than I could say for, like, any other Dragon Ball Z movie villains, except for Beerus, of course, and Frieza, if I have to count him. So, you know what? It's not that bad, honestly, and it's a good movie, honestly. I think it's good. Its animation, quality can be weird, depending on who you ask, because, like, it's good enough, but there's, like, detailed backgrounds that make these simpler drawings of characters not look the greatest. I don't know. Overall, though, the voice acting in the American version, I think it's done well, and the character interactions are pretty nice. Overall, I think it's a good movie. I think people should definitely check it out at some point if they can, but I'm not saying it's the greatest Dragon Ball, like, movie ever. I still have Battle of Gods in my heart to say that, because I do like its character, its small story, and the character interactions and everything else. But that's just my own opinion on that movie itself. I think I'm going to end it off here and talk about some other stuff later on. In the next episode, I might talk about, like, just games itself, so, you know, there you go. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, comment, subscribe for more. Yeah, I'm gonna play more Team Fortress 2 in the future, but I'm just recording this stuff for now, just for filler stuff, you know, on Sundays and Saturdays. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did leave, do all the stuff I said before. Anyway, my bots, I'll see y'all next time in the next video. Until then, sayonara, take care.